Nala has been pregnant for 2 years. She was a farmer's wife, young and strong. At first, her pregnancy was like every other. She woke up with sickness in the mornings. She craved roasted yam at night, and her skin glowed under the sun day. She counted the moons, waiting for the child. 9 months came and passed. Still, the baby stayed inside. At first, the villagers celebrated her, bringing gifts and singing for the coming child. Her mother-in-law slaughtered a goat, and children danced around her yard. But as the days stretched into weeks, the joy faded. The same people who had praised her began to look at her with worry. When she walked to the market, strangers stared at her belly. Mothers pulled their children close, whispering as she passed. Seasons changed. When the rains came, Nala struggled to bend and plant yams beside her husband. She tried, but her strength failed quickly. During harvest, she could only sit and watch, ashamed that she could not help. At night, when other women carried their babies on their backs to gatherings, she carried her burden still inside her heart aching with envy. There were times she thought the child had left her, for days would pass without a kick. Then suddenly, the baby would move, sharp and strong, reminding her he was still there. These moments gave her hope. She told herself, this child is only waiting for his time. Some evenings, she joined the other women at the river to fetch water. They gossiped and laughed, but their voices always fell when they looked at her. One brave woman asked, "How long will this child hide?" Nala only smiled and said, "As long as he needs." But inside, she carried fear like a shadow. Her husband begged her more than once to travel to the hospital in the nearby town. The midwife also urged her, warning that no pregnancy should last so long. But Nala shook her head each time. She believed strongly that the gods were watching over her. She said, "This child will come when the gods allow, not before." Her stubborn faith divided the village even more. Some admired her courage, others called her foolish. It was during this time that the village chief sent word for her to visit the shrine. The priest examined her belly, muttering old chants. He sprinkled white chalk on her forehead and told her the gods were testing her patience. He said the child was not ordinary, but one who carried strength from the spirit world. His words spread quickly, dividing the village further. Some now feared her, others respected her even more. Still, the moons kept passing. She grew tired, her back ached, her legs swelled, and sleep left her. The women stopped visiting as often, their laughter fading when they spoke of her. Some whispered that she had sinned. Some feared she carried a spirit child. But Nala held on. She prayed under the big Iroko tree every evening, her hands rubbing her belly. Her husband tried to be strong, but his face grew lined with worry. Every healer in the nearby villages had touched her stomach, pressing and shaking their heads. Some gave her herbs, some gave her oils, but nothing worked. Then, one morning after the 12th moon, pain woke her before dawn. It was deep and heavy, like the weight of the earth pulling her down. She screamed until the whole compound gathered. The midwife rushed in, her old hands steady and firm. Hours passed. The sun climbed and fell. Finally, as the moon rose, a cry broke the silence. Nala's baby came at last. A boy, strong and alive, with a loud voice that filled the room. The people gasped and bowed their heads. Some said it was the longest pregnancy they had ever known. Others said the child had been waiting for his time. Nala only held him close, her tears wetting his small face. To her, he was not a curse, not a miracle, just her son, finally home. Nala's son was indeed not an ordinary child. The boy was named Fela, meaning the heart of goodness. From the day he was born, the people called him the child who waited. He grew fast, strong, and different. As a toddler, he rarely cried. He would sit under the Iroko tree where his mother once prayed, staring at the wind like he could see things others could not. When he turned 5, strange things began to happen around him. If he laughed, the goats would start bleating loudly in the yard. If he frowned, the wind would rise suddenly and blow dust into people's eyes. Some said he carried the strength of the gods. Others whispered that he was still half spirit. But Nala only smiled when people spoke. She raised him with love and patience. She taught him to greet elders, to share food, and to never raise his hand in anger. She told him stories of his birth and how she had carried him for 2 years. "You are not like others," she would say, "so walk gently in this world." Fela grew into a tall, quiet young man. His father taught him to farm, and soon their land began to yield more than ever before. The yams grew larger, the maize greener, and the rains always seemed to fall kindly on their fields. People came from other villages to ask him to touch their seeds before planting. They said anything Fela blessed would grow, but not everyone was pleased. Some elders began to fear his power. They said no human should have such a gift. One day, when the harvest was richer than ever, a rumor spread that Fela had made a secret pact with spirits. The chief summoned him to the shrine, just as his mother had once been called. The priest asked him, "What power do you use to make your farm so fruitful?" Fela bowed his head and said, "Only the strength my mother gave me and the kindness of the earth." The priest stared for a long time, then he nodded slowly. "The gods have marked you," he said, "but your heart will decide if you bring blessing or curse." Years passed. Fela married, and his fame grew beyond the village. He began to travel to nearby towns, teaching farmers how to care for the land. Wherever he went, crops flourished. He refused gifts of wealth and chose to live simply, close to his people. When his mother grew old, he built her a small hut near the river so she could rest and watch the water flow. Every evening, he came to sit beside her, just as she once sat praying under the iroko tree. The villagers no longer feared him. They began to call him Fela the Blessed. They said he was the proof that patience could bear fruit, that even what seems delayed by the gods has its time. And when Nala finally closed her eyes for the last time, Fela buried her under the big iroko tree, the same place where her tears once fell. He planted yams beside her grave, and each season they grew taller and stronger than any others in the village. People said her spirit still watched over him, whispering through the leaves, reminding everyone that what waits longest often shines the brightest.